Hey, this is Keith from moderndayhealing.com, and I read something last night while I was laying in bed that really stuck out to me. It's from this book. It's probably going to be backward on the video, but it's called Tao, the Watercourse Way by Alan Watts. And I think that this is a really, really potent example and explanation of the way that we need to see life, not just when things are going poorly or when we're struggling, but also when things are going really well. And one thing that I've learned, especially over these past few months, is just how powerful stories are in relaying a message. So I'm going to read a really brief story from this book and then apply something else that I learned a few years ago, actually, that really coincides with this and brings it home. So this is a Taoist story of a farmer whose horse ran away. The evening after the horse ran away, the neighbors gathered to let the guy know how sorry they were for his misfortune, and because it was considered bad luck that for horses to run away. The reply of this guy was, "That may be so," in terms of the misfortune. Maybe it's misfortunate, maybe it's not. The next day, the horse returned, and it brought with it 6 wild horses. And the response from the neighbors was to come and congratulate him about how fortunate he was now. And his response again was, "That may be so." After that, on the following day, his son tried to saddle, that's how it puts it in this book, one of the new wild horses. And because it was a wild horse, it didn't like that. It threw him off, and the son broke his leg. And again, the neighbors came over to let him know how sorry they were for his misfortune. And his reply again was, "That may be so." And then the next day, officers from the military came to recruit people for the war, for the army. But because his son had just broken his leg, he was no longer eligible to be drafted. And after that, again, the neighbors came over to congratulate him on his great fortune. And his reply, again, was, "That may be so." And the point of this is that it's very easy to get attached to labeling something as good or bad, positive or negative too early on, or at all. And one of my favorite quotes, I actually have a tattoo of it, is from the Red Hot Chili Peppers, which says, "Overcome and more will always be revealed." And it basically means that anytime we don't get stuck on thinking that this thing that happens or that thing that happens is the end, more will always reveal itself, and things happen in a cyclical nature, just like the yin and yang sign, the yin-yang sign. It's just like there's always balance. There's always good in the bad. There's always bad in the good, quote unquote, how we perceive good and bad. But this also, Jim Rohn, who was like a business teacher, did a really good job of illustrating this in terms of, I believe it was ants, in the way that they prepare for seasons. During the summer, when everything's sunny and everything's going well, ants are preparing for the winter. They're gathering resources and preparing themselves to be inside, for lack of a better way to put it, during the winter. So they're enjoying the fact that it's sunny and everything's going really well, but they're also understanding that it will eventually change, and they're preparing for that change in season. And then when it comes time for winter, the ants are inside, but they're not attached to or thinking that it's always going to be cold, that it's always going to be that way. And they're enjoying the fact that they have their resources, they've prepared well. There may be certain restrictions based on, the fact that it's winter, but they're not attached to that. And that's basically how we need to view things in our lives if our goal is to have peace of mind and be detached from getting too emotional or too caught up in different things. So basically understanding that when things are going really well in our lives, we need to be extra on top of maintaining our lifestyle and our habits and balance in our lives, with the understanding that there's always going to be something that comes back around that is going to be challenging, it's going to be difficult. And when that challenge or difficulty comes, we're prepared for it. We're rooted and grounded in our habits, in what gives us the strength to move through that and come out on the other side. And the same thing is when it does get challenging and difficult, not to get too attached or overly identified with that, and understanding that just like in nature, storms come and go, seasons come and go, it's the same thing in our lives. We need to see that when things get challenging and difficult, there's always a lesson to be learned, one, but in the midst of the challenge, we need to be aware that that is also when the sunlight is coming out again, when the good times are brewing again, and that we will make it through that. But a lot of times what prevents us from making through that or draws it out is our attachment to the idea that it's going to stick forever. So we get caught up in the depression or whatever challenge is happening to the point that we don't even recognize when things are starting to get better, and we get stuck in that state. So just a short little story and example. I think it's really relevant. I think that it's very easy to get too caught up in either being overly positive or overly negative instead of just maintaining that flat line, allowing ourselves to enjoy when things are positive and not get too caught up when things are negative, but in the midst of either one, not getting too attached and trying to hold on or keep things that way, allowing ourselves to flow with the changes of life and understanding that the one thing that we can do, the one thing that we can control is our attitude and our understanding that things are always going to change and fluctuate. And the less that we resist the changes and fluctuations, the more peace that we're able to have inside, and the more that we're able to just enjoy life and flow and be a part to, or be able to experience to the highest level, which is, I think, what we're all really looking for. So I appreciate you watching. Have a great rest of your day. I'm also writing a little written blog to go along with this, so if you want to see that, you can check it out on moderndayhealing.com. There's some other articles and videos as well. Thank you.